Paris knife attacker said that, quote, he could no longer bear to see Muslims dying. In a tragic incident near the Eiffel Tower, Armand R, a 26-year-old French man of Iranian descent, fatally stabbed a German tourist and injured two others with a hammer in Paris's 15th district. The German victim was attacked alongside a 60-year-old Frenchman and a 66-year-old British man, both sustaining non-life-threatening injuries. French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin emphasized the gravity of the attack, stating that more lives could have been lost without prompt police intervention. Armand R, as he is identified in documents, previously known to intelligence services and within history of acute mental illness, was arrested for assassination and attempted assassination related to a terrorist enterprise. He had converted to Islam at 18 and was arrested in 2016 for violent actions and had planned to join ISIS in Syria. Released in 2020, he was under surveillance for suspected extremism and undergoing psychiatric treatment. The attack, which Armand R claimed was motivated by his inability to, quote, bear to see Muslims dying, was condemned by French President Emmanuel Macron as a terror attack, and German Chancellor Olaf Scholz expressed shock and a firm stand against hatred and terror. So this is a terrorist knife attack that happened in Paris recently. And basically what happened is there is this French national from an Iranian family living in France, and he has been radicalized. And he was radicalized. He converted to Islam at 18, and he became radicalized into the movement, and he became radicalized into trying to join ISIS. He was arrested and jailed for this. He was released after 4 years. He was released in 2020, and then he was continued to be under surveillance. Then when the attacks in Gaza started, the Israel-Hamas war started, he just lost it. Apparently he has a history of acute mental illness, and there were reports from doctors showing that they were concerned about his mental state. There was reporting saying that his mom was reporting his status to the authorities because she was worried about how he was acting. And basically witnesses say that when he was attacking, he was screaming Allahu Akbar and made statements about how he could no longer bear to see Muslims dying in Gaza and Afghanistan. So he decided to go attack a bunch of random tourists in front of the Eiffel Tower, and he actually killed the man. He killed a German tourist. Bludgeoned the other men in the head with a hammer.
And how does that stop Muslims from dying?
It doesn't at all. It doesn't at all. It's also kind of insane to me. I mean, I'm not insane. I don't know the right way to put this. He's like, he can no longer bear to see Muslims dying in Afghanistan. Most of the people killing Muslims in Afghanistan are Muslims. All of them. All of the.
He said Afghanistan?
I thought he did, according to statements, he also said Afghanistan, Gaza and Afghanistan. All the people murdering Muslims
killing Muslims. He kills non-Muslims because he can't see Muslims killing Muslims?
Yes.
I mean, this guy doesn't seem... He's not mentally right. If
clearly
he has mental problems. Yeah, okay.
Yes, and apparently has a history of it as well.
So he converted to Islam when he was 18?
Yeah.
And he lived all his life in, where you said he was in France?
Mm-hmm.
Was he born? Did you mention he was born in France?
I don't know if he was born in France, but he's identified as a French citizen. He's only 26 years old, so I'm kind of assuming he was.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing because he's an Iranian, and we don't see that many Iranians do stuff like this, and he's Sunni because he's not even Shia. So this guy, even though he's Iranian, he's not radicalized to Islam because he's from Iran. He's radicalized to Islam because he's French. Do you understand? Like his Iranian background is not actually leading to his radicalism because if it was because of his Iranian background, he would be a Shia radical Muslim, not a Sunni one. This is more French environment influence, the Islamism in France influencing him rather than his Iranian background influencing him, which is pretty telling how bad the situation is in France. I mean, you are less likely to get views like this in Iran than France right now. It's hard for you.
Literally.
Yes. Yeah. If you go in Iran, you're not going to see people with these views. It's hard. You're going to be able to, average citizens. Random. It's hard for you to find people that would condone such a thing. France is a better environment for radicalizing people right now. Iran is actually a good environment for de-radicalizing people, surprisingly. Yeah. Well, not surprisingly, actually. But this was odd to a lot of Iranians because they don't, whenever there's a stabbing news in Europe, it's usually not an Iranian, right? So they were like, what the hell? Who is this guy? Why is he?
It's pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm assuming that, so Sid gave a super chat. He's saying, imagine hating a country and its people and desire the destruction of the local people and yet begging them to let you in, a weird form of hatred. I don't know this as a fact, but I am assuming based off the reporting that I read and the research I did that he is the son of people that came from Iran. I think he grew up, maybe was possibly born in France. But spent his whole life there. So he wasn't in a position of begging the country to let them in. I think he spent his whole life in France. I think it was his parents that were given asylum, or I have no idea how they came to France. But he's a full French national like any other French citizen.
And this is the misunderstanding that a lot of people have that think that radicalization is coming from outside into Europe and North America. A lot of the radicalization, Islamic radicalization, is homegrown. So even if you stop immigration, you already have the virus, the Islamic virus spreading there. You're not going to be able to stop this virus just from stopping immigration. This is this is not just an immigration or military battle. This is an ideological battle. You have to figure out how to cure this from inside your country. Again, this person was radicalized. This person was not radicalized outside of France and then came to France. This person was radicalized in France.
And his mother would actually report him to the authorities.
Yeah, look.
People are confirming that he was born in France. Thank you, D. Super chat from Sid saying Muslims don't care about oppression as long as the oppressors are also Muslim, but if non-Muslims go to war with Muslims and win as they do, then it is a problem. Basically, non-Muslims can't resist us. I mean, I'm not in a way. In a way, I kind of appreciated this man's consistency about caring about Muslims dying in Afghanistan, because I'm like, wow, look at someone actually talking about Muslims being killed.
We shouldn't appreciate this guy.
No, I don't know the right way to put that. I'm just saying that he it's one of the rare forms of consistency that I've seen. I wish, of course, obviously he shouldn't have expressed it like this. That's horrific, horrendous, and undefensible in any way, shape, or form. But there is a display of consistency, which I think is very rare.
Also, said you should put a mini at the beginning of that sentence because you're generalizing all Muslims. I have seen Muslims who care about oppression, the type of oppression that you're talking about. Like I have seen Muslim activists talking about the situation in Yemen, about the situation in Afghanistan, situation in Pakistan. So there are people. There are people who care about those things. So it's just not as much as we like to see, but they do exist.
Yeah. You know, it actually makes me really sad. There's an Afghan activist that I follow on Instagram, and when there were so many marches and huge displays for Gaza, like he was making a lot of posts, and he's probably a Muslim himself, I don't know, criticizing the Ummah, basically being like, guys, where were you? Where were you? Why don't you show any of us the support? Why don't you show our Uyghur brothers and sisters the support? The streets were empty. But now you guys come out in the hundreds of thousands. We could have really used your support. You say you care so much about the Ummah. Where were you guys?
Yeah. You hate Jews. You don't care about them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A pattern becomes very clear.
Yes.
So Yusuf raises a question. How can we curb Islamism in Europe? Well, I think one thing that needs to happen is that we need to take a strong stance against any form of separatism. So the measures that France is taking against Islamic separatism within their own society is very clear, very needed. I really like a lot of the measures that they're putting in. Other things are basically we need to not apologize for our values. We need to stop apologizing for our own values that made our countries prosperous. We need to rigorously defend them and not apologize for their success. Just because we are successful, that doesn't mean that we're bad. Like, this is kind of a twisted logic that a lot of leftists use. Like, that's a longer conversation that I'm not going to get into.
Well,
and also, basically, don't let yourself become a slave to multiculturalism.
Well, I wrote an article about this.
Hey, let's talk about it.
On queer majority. If you guys want to go read it, on queer majority, I wrote this article. I didn't choose the title; they did. Pride flags, kid gloves, and Islam's religious right. So yeah, I basically come up with my solution to this problem, and I put the link in the description in the live chat if you guys, or you could just search for this queer majority Armand Navabi, and you could find this article. Yeah, cool. Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.